CBC Gym, and cbcsports.ca. Don't miss it. We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lechuk in Winnipeg. At noon, partly cloudy in Winnipeg. It is +1 at the moment. We're looking at increasing clouds through the afternoon today. North wind at 20, our forecast high 4 degrees. The federal government is kicking in $166 million to the city of Winnipeg to upgrade its North End sewage treatment plant. It is part of the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund. This is for the second phase to upgrade the 90-year-old plant, which deals with 70% of the city's sewage. Mayor Scott Gillingham says without the upgrades, the city could run out of sewage capacity in 6 years. He says the federal money will help get it completed.
This project is also critical to Winnipeg's growth. We are building Winnipeg, and the project that you hear being worked on right now and you see being worked on is vital to our future. It's vital to future generations and our ability to grow our city, to add more homes, more businesses, and to grow Winnipeg's economy.
Phase 2 of the upgrades is expected to cost more than $825 million. The city of Winnipeg has ended up with a modest surplus for 2024. The city was expecting a deficit. The CBC's Bartley Kivas explains what turned it around.
Winnipeg's year-end financial report is out, and it shows the city has a $7 million surplus on last year's budget. That works out to a variance of less than half a percentage point on total spending of close to $1.4 billion. It's still good news because the city was expecting a modest deficit instead, mainly because of higher than expected spending on snow clearing and overtime for the fire paramedic service. The turnaround is partly due to higher interest rates on city investments and a year-end accounting decision. The city has booked the money it expects from the settlement of a lawsuit as a receivable. That lawsuit was over the construction of the Winnipeg Police Headquarters. The settlement calls for the city to receive at least $22.5 million. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, with the latest tariff threats from Washington scheduled to take effect tomorrow, Canadians are bracing for what could be one of the most significant weeks in the country's recent history. All sectors of the Canadian economy will be impacted if the tariffs are levied, with the federal government insisting it is ready and waiting with a response. Janice McGregor reports.
Minister Anita Anand confirmed yesterday Canada's still looking at targeting $155 billion worth of American goods if the president's threat comes to pass. A month ago, we were given a list of $30 billion worth of goods as targets. We'll see if the rest of the list is released over the next day or so, whether the plan continues to be to ramp retaliation up in stages. But yesterday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre joined in the lamentation for this toxic new normal.
Regardless of what the president does, though, we can't rely on him, and we can't rely on the Americans anymore. We've learned our lesson.
And as the day begins here, we'll watch for signals about who's talking to who, because while there are negotiations that continue, there's still hope for another reprieve. Janice McGregor, CBC News, Ottawa.
Overseas, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says President Donald Trump has a sincere commitment to reaching peace in Ukraine. He told Parliament today Europe will need strong US support to ensure that peace is lasting.
Once again, we live in an era where peace in Europe depends upon strength and deterrence.
Starmer updated MPs on his blueprint to strengthen Ukraine's defenses and to put together a coalition of the willing to counter Russian aggression. Starmer and other NATO leaders spent the weekend hammering out a plan of action. Their renewed efforts come after a dramatic clash between Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Meanwhile, his first comments since the exchange, Trump repeated the Ukrainian leader was not ready for peace and warned America was not going to put up with it for much longer. At least 2 people are dead and several others injured after a car drove into a crowd in Germany today. The incident occurred as street celebrations began to mark the carnival season. Rebecca Collard has more.
Emergency vehicles block streets in the German city of Mannheim and officers redirect traffic after a car drove into a crowd in the center of the city. This was supposed to be a day of celebration here in Germany, as Germans mark Rose Monday, a festive day in the middle of Carnival, a week of floats, parades, and celebrations. Instead, a police spokesperson asked residents and visitors in Mannheim to stay indoors as they secured the area. Police say they have a man in custody, but have only said he is a 40-year-old German national. Security services were already on high alert after social media accounts linked to the Islamic State group called for attacks against carnival events in Germany. Rebecca Collard for CBC News, Berlin.
And the Prime Minister's office has announced that Dennis King has been appointed as Canada's next ambassador to Ireland. King stepped down as Premier of Prince Edward Island 10 days ago after almost 6 years in office. At the time, King said he never planned to seek elected office again and that he had no plans to run federally. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. I'll have your next local news coming up at 12:30 right here on Radio Noon. Taking a look at your forecast, looking at a high of 4 degrees in Winnipeg today. Increasing clouds as we get through the day today with a slight chance of flurries through the night. A low of -7 tonight in Winnipeg. Looking at a high of 1 in Brandon today, 2 in Dauphin. Increasing clouds in the west as we get through the afternoon as well. The Pas and Flin Flon looking at a high of -1, a slight chance of flurries today, and a good chance of flurries in Thompson, and a high of -4. You're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, on the CBC Listen app, and also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's what's coming up today. During our call-in segment here on Radio Noon, it is that time of year, yes, spring cleaning. We're going to talk to an organizing expert about what to do with the stuff that you have and how to keep your house organized. That's after 12:30. Also, coming up at 12:15, a Manitoba chief says First Nations can help boost the province's potential as a global hub of critical minerals. We'll hear more at 12:15. But first up, some class sizes will be getting bigger in the Brandon School Division next year. We're going to speak to the board chair coming right up. The Brandon School Division is growing, and so too is its budget for the 2025-26 school year. Last week, the school division held budget deliberations. One of the key points addressed was about class sizes. The school division says class sizes are expected to grow for some grades because it won't be able to hire as many new teachers as it needs. Linda Ross is the chair of the Board of Trustees with the Brandon School Division and joins me now via Zoom. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me, Linda.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Let's first go over what's in the budget. So what is the school division looking at here for the 2025-26 school year?
Well, what we had was going into budget, we had a shortfall of $10.4 million. And that was just due to things like inflationary costs and so on, increases in hydro and water and all of those sorts of things. So we had a shortfall of $10.4 million that we had to find somewhere. So what we received from the province after the nutrition funding, because the nutrition funding, which is fabulous, comes in and then it goes out. But after the nutrition funding, what we received from the province was $2.7 million. Okay, I should have added also that the reason for the shortfall also is because of contract settlements and having to meet those financial needs as well. So the way that we addressed the remaining shortfall, which is an additional $6.7 million, we did two things. We increased the ratio, that is the average class size, for grades 4 to 8, and we also increased the average class size for grades 9 to 12. So that what that equated to was 5 positions in grades 4 to 8 and an additional 10 positions in grades 9 to 12. Now, nobody is going to lose a job. We have increasing enrollment, so our numbers are going up and the number of teachers that we will have will actually increase, but our average class size will increase slightly and differentially for grades 4 to 8 and 9 to 12. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, and then in addition, so that gave us about $1.5 million. We also raised taxes, and the increase in taxes is 6.78%. And that gives us about $4.35 million. And so remember, we're trying to meet that shortfall of 10.4, which is a shortfall of roughly 6.7 after you take off the 2.7 that the province gave us.
Right.
So the tax increase will give us another 4.35. The change in ratio, the change in class sizes will give us almost another $1.5 million. And then there is just under another $1 million in certain positions where responsibilities are redistributed to other positions. And there was one position, one clinician position that is eliminated due to a vacancy.
I want to ask you about the property tax increase, Linda, because 6.78, a lot of people would look at that's a big number. How did the school division come to that number when it came to increasing the property tax?
Well, our primary goal is to have the least amount of impact on the classroom that we can when we're having to make reductions. Now, obviously, we did impact the classroom because we did increase class sizes for grades 4 to 12. So we looked at that, and then also being aware that the way in which taxes works as education taxes is that 43.5% of that impact is felt this year and 56.5% is felt next year. So we always have to be aware of, if we make a tax increase this year, what's going to be the impact starting for our budget next year. So the 6.78% seemed, I mean, it certainly it's not a minor tax increase, but if you look at, and of course, how that's going to impact you is going to depend on the value of your home. But just as an example, if we looked at a residence, your primary residence valued at $301,000, with the 6.78% tax increase, your overall tax increase would have been, let me look at these numbers and make sure I've got this right. It would have been an increase of $121. But because of the homeowner's tax credit of $1,500, that particular property, $301,000, will not see a tax increase. There will, in fact, be a decrease of $134. So, and I want to make this point, in that when we say a 6.78% increase, we're talking about an increase in the rate of taxation. And that's important because as I've been reading some other divisions' budget results, I noticed that some of them are reporting a difference in percentage increase in the mill rate, which is very different than the percentage increase in actual tax dollars. So it's important to be comparing
apples to apples.
Apples.
Yeah,
exactly.
Linda,
Yeah.
I want to talk about class sizes here because you've touched on it now a couple times. We're looking at bigger class sizes between the grades of 4 to 12. So
Right.
how many more students are we looking at here in the classroom in these grades?
Okay, so we didn't touch kindergarten to grade 3, right? And so that will remain under, I think it's 18.9 or something like that. So it's just under 20. So that will remain. With the K to 4, we will have an average class size increase from 21.8 to 22.5. And for grades 9 to 12, the increase will be an average class size of 23.4.
From?
That's a very good question.
So we're looking at a bigger jump in class size at the high school level then?
At the high school level, for sure, for sure.
So you had talked about hiring teachers at the high school level and also grades 4 to 8. What kind of impact is this going to have on teachers and students to have these bigger class sizes?
Well, I mean, there's always going to be an impact, which is why we have tried very hard to stay away from the classroom as much as possible. Even with these increases, Brandon will still have some of the smallest class sizes in the province. The impact, of course, is that there will be, if you look at teacher time on average, probably that means, especially in larger classes, there will be less teacher time per student, which is not desirable. It's a very small average increase, but nevertheless, it will have that impact. In terms of workload for teachers, I guess particularly at high school, it may mean some more marking, things like that. It's certainly not, it's not what we would wish, but we do have to have a balanced budget.
Mm-hmm. So some parents might be asking, were there other alternatives that the school division was looking at as opposed to increasing those class sizes to kind of keep those class sizes smaller so that it can benefit the students and even benefit teachers? Absolutely.
We really have almost run out of options. We have cut, 86% of our budget is in salary costs. So that means 14% is for everything else, equipment, paper, toilet paper, computers, all of that sort of thing. So over the years, we have been making cuts, as I said, as far away from the classroom as possible. But this was a really significant amount of money that we had to find this year, $6.7 million. And as I said, with 86% of your budget being rolled up in salary costs, there really wasn't a way to we'd run out of places to cut. We're a very lean division.
But Linda, some people might also wonder too, with the increase in property taxes, funding from the province, wouldn't that extra money help in hiring more teachers to keep those class sizes down?
Well, we will hire more teachers because we do have increasing enrollment. But those teachers will meet the need because we have increasing enrollment. But really, to the $2.7 million from the province will not meet the contract costs. I mean, we have collective agreements, the first provincial agreement for teachers, and we know that the costs of meeting those obligations and also the costs for support staff are going to be higher than the amount of money that the province has given us. So, there's no way that we could manage without a tax increase. And so
it's challenging financial times, I would assume, for the school division.
Pardon?
It would be challenging financial times for the.
It's very challenging times for everyone, right? And it is really difficult. And so, as I said, we did have to increase class size this time around because we didn't want to put the entire burden on the taxpayer. At the end of the day, there's only one taxpayer, whether you're paying municipal taxes or education taxes or provincial taxes, it all boils down to the same person. So we didn't want to put that entire burden on the taxpayer. And so given that our class sizes we have been able to keep them quite low, we did make a change so that there is a slight increase in class sizes for grades 4 to 8.
Linda, we're going to have to leave it there. I really do appreciate you joining us today here on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Linda Ross is the chair of the Board of Trustees with the Brandon School Division.
Listen up to groundbreaking sounds. Listen up to new and emerging artists. Listen up to what's happening with your favorite musicians. Subscribe now to CBC Music's newsletter, Listen Up. Keep tabs on everything happening in music. News, exclusive live performances, the best new songs, and so much more. Subscribe now at cbc.ca/listen up.
It is 12:20 and you're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg on the CBC Listen app and also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Still ahead here, Premier Wab Kinew says our province can be the Costco of critical minerals. Coming up, we're going to hear from some community leaders about the untapped potential their communities could provide to this. Stay tuned for that, but let's talk about your forecast. Today here in Winnipeg, we are looking at increasing cloud this afternoon, wind becoming north at 20, a high of 4 degrees. Tonight, mainly cloudy. There is a 40% chance of flurries late this evening and overnight. That north wind will pick up, at times gusting to 50, a low of -7. Tomorrow, mainly cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries. Windy once again tomorrow, north 30 gusting to 50 and a high of 4 degrees. And then we're looking at sunshine on Wednesday and a high of 0. Current conditions right now around the province, mostly cloudy for you in Brandon and 2 degrees. -12 and light snow reported in Churchill right now. Sunshine and 2 degrees in Dauphin. Right now in Flin Flon, drifting snow -3. That's because you have a northwest wind gusting to 40 right now. At this hour, in the Paw, cloudy and -1. Thompson, -4 and light snow. And in Winnipeg, it is 2 degrees and partly cloudy. The chief of Norway House Cree Nation says his community can help Manitoba reach its full potential in boosting critical mining exploration in our province. Chief Larson Anderson says Norway House is the only First Nation to own a mining company in Manitoba. Premier Wab Kinew recently touted Manitoba as the Costco of critical minerals. He made that claim when he and other Canadian leaders went to the U.S. in February to dissuade American lawmakers from going ahead with proposed tariffs on Canadian goods. But as of last year, only 4 mines were actually digging them up. Chief Anderson says First Nations can be an untapped resource in the fight against Donald Trump's mockery of Canada's sovereignty. He recently spoke with CBC's Austin Sherbakaget. Austin started by asking why the First Nation purchased its own mining company.
So for Norway House, we felt that, we've been getting led down many, paths of possible job creation, even revenue generation by various mining companies. And we felt that those promises were put in, were offered with really genuine offers, but they always seem to fall apart. So we wanted to do a little bit more as far as the current chief on council, to be able to show that Norway House would like to have something that could create upwards of 300 to 500 jobs that are good, decent paying jobs and long term, which we need desperately. And all of the north, actually, not just Norway House, but yeah, that was part of the basis of why we decided to purchase the mine and have full ownership of it, in order to have a nation that has more say in what goes on in our backyard.
Premier Canoe said that Manitoba is the Costco of critical minerals and that we can use them for as like a bargaining chip with the U.S. I'm just wondering, what is your reaction to that?
Well, we've actually had the luxury of meeting with Premier Canoe when he first got elected. We discussed this opportunity with him, and so we've been in contact with the Minister of Business and Mines. We've made applications to their various funding announcements, namely in the critical minerals category. There is a mineral that we've also discovered that is far more abundant than the nickel that's there, and far more worth far more than billions of dollars. That will help our nation, and especially in Canada, combat the issues that are happening with the states. The only other largest magnesium producer in the world is China, and Russia. So we have found a mineral, magnesium, within the dolomite that's in the ground at Minago, and that mineral is worth far more than the nickel. To me, Norway House is a nation. We've never relinquished our sovereignty. I actually, I've been really thinking a lot about is that we're dependent on government funding based on what they feel we should be getting funded for, which is kind of ridiculous when we're the landlords of this country, and we should be the one deciding on what we should charge for our visitors to stay on our lands and use our resources.
That was Norway House Chief Larson Anderson. Lac du Bonny Mayor Ken Lodge also says his community can help Manitoba live up to its full critical minerals potential. The Tanko mine there mines for lithium. Lodge also spoke with CBC's Austin Sherbakaget. We apologize. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty there. We'll play that clip for you if we can. We also heard from Lac du Bonny Mayor Ken Lodge speaking with CBC's Austin Sherbakaget. You can read the whole story on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Historically, there's been a lot of mines out here. There's been copper, gold, silver, and just a number of different, I'm going to call them metals. They're used primarily for either electronics or, in the cases of silver and gold, more monetary. But that is also in addition to a good portion of the exploration that's been going on out here for quite a few years in respect to cobalt as well as other critical minerals, I guess you were, that have strategic value. And those mines have just not been developed primarily because of the time frame when they were initially discovered, as well as the economics of developing those mines at those times. Now, one of the advantages that Manitoba largely has, and especially in respect to our area out here, is relatively easy access to these mining areas. There has been mines established in those areas already, and the areas have been relatively well explored and documented as to the ore bearing that they have, as well as the capacities of them. So there's a great deal of potential here in this particular area, both because we have, a relatively solid mining history here, as well as people that can do the work, but the access, the economics of the whole thing. There's railheads very close by to this area, within, 15 miles of the town of Lac du Bonny, there's a railhead. So, it kind of makes things a little bit simpler from a transportation perspective. And we do have, of course, regular road access to everything as well. As a small country, as a small province, we have to do what we can to protect ourselves. And certainly part of that is just human nature. We want to be able to protect our quality of life and our way of life and every aspect of that, and try to secure a future for ourselves. Well, my belief is that this is pretty much along the lines of where we have to go, but we have to be able to apply very, very distinct logic to it with a solid explanation as to why we were doing things, so that at some point in time, if somebody actually cares to think about, what's going on, they might recognize that we do, in fact, have a lot more to gain by working together and working out the deals that we have to have, as well as adhering to the agreements that we actually already have.
That is Lac du Bonnie Mayor Ken Lodge speaking with CBC's Austin Sherbakaget. You can read the whole story on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is time now for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lachuk in Winnipeg at 12:30. It is +2 in Winnipeg under a mix of sun and clouds. We're looking at clouds building as we get through the afternoon today. Our forecast high 4 degrees in the city this afternoon. Phase 2 of the North End sewage treatment plant is closer to being completed. Today, the federal government announced it is contributing another $16 million toward the upgrade to $166 million. The city could run out of sewage capacity in as little as 6 years without the nearly $1 billion project. Winnipeg South Liberal MP Terry Duguid says this project has been discussed for decades and says this contribution will help get it done.
This will ensure that our city can grow, that we can protect our precious Lake Winnipeg, and importantly, that we can keep water rates reasonable and affordable in this city.
The provincial government has contributed more than $400 million to the upgrade of the 90-year-old sewage treatment plant. Winnipeg is projecting to end the current fiscal year with a multi-million-dollar surplus. Unaudited financial data predicts the city will end the year with a $7.2 million surplus, despite a bleak November forecast predicting a $20 million deficit. Higher interest earnings and savings also improve the financial outlook. The year-end financial status report will be presented on Friday. A 57-year-old woman is dead after police say she was hit by a car near HSC. It happened around 10:30 Friday night. Police say the woman was crossing at Maryland and Notre Dame at the time. She was taken to hospital in critical condition but died. The driver stayed at the scene and met with officers after that crash. Police are asking anyone who might have video or dash cam footage of the area to give them a call. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is heading back to Ottawa after wrapping up his UK trip. He traveled to London for a weekend security summit, making Canada the only non-European nation represented in talks on how to ensure a possible Ukraine ceasefire actually holds. The summit followed a contentious White House meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and continuous back and forth between the two. After Zelensky said a deal to end the war with Russia is very far away, Trump called it the worst statement the Ukrainian leader could make. And finally, to Los Angeles.
And the Oscar goes to? Are they playing us off?
No. Well, maybe. Honora.
Honora was the big winner at the Academy Awards last night, taking home 5 Oscars in total, including Best Picture and Best Director for Sean Baker. The film star, Mikey Madison, was named Best Actress. Adrian Brody won Best Actor for his role in The Brutalist. Kieran Culkin won for Best Supporting Actor, and Zoe Saldana was named Best Supporting Actress. You can find all of the winners, the highlights, the dresses, the clothing march on our website.
Fashion is so important with the Oscars, yes.
News.ca.
I have not seen any of the movies that were nominated, I don't think. Have you?
No. I have not.
I don't even know. I don't even know what Honora is about. I'll have to look it up.
You'll have to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is Riley Lachuk with your CBC local news. 12:33. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, on the CBC Listen app, and also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Well, we are looking at the temperature, warming up ever so slightly. We're going to get to the forecast in just a second. I just want to tell you, though, for our call-in segment this afternoon here on Radio Noon, we're talking spring cleaning. Do you have any questions? We have a professional organizer joining us in studio here. The number to call is 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. You can, of course, always text your questions and comments to 204 588-7355. Well, today in Winnipeg, we're seeing increasing cloud this afternoon. Wind out of the north at 20. High of +4 today. Tonight, there is a chance of some flurries, a 40% chance of flurries under a mainly cloudy sky. What's of note here is that the wind's really going to pick up. North 30 gusting to 50, a low of -7. Tomorrow, mainly cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries. That strong north wind continuing gusting at 15, a high of -4. Will warm back up to a high of 0 under a sunny sky on Wednesday. Current conditions right now in Brandon, mostly cloudy and 2 degrees, -12 and light snow in Churchill. At this hour in Thompson, light snow -4. It is 4 degrees at the Forks here in Winnipeg under a partly cloudy sky. Well, after what feels like a cold and long winter, temperatures are warming up just a little bit this week. Many people feel motivated to do some spring cleaning and get their space ready for the warmer months. Who better to give us tips on spring cleaning and organizing than a professional organizer? Give us a call if you have any questions on spring cleaning and organizing, or share your thoughts with us on organizing wins. We would love to share some tips on here. Sarah Verwymerin is the owner of Verwymerin. I'm sorry, did I?
You actually did a great job.
Sarah.
That was super impressive.
Is
Good
the
job.
owner of Three Pines Organizing here in Winnipeg, and Sarah has years of experience helping people declutter their spaces. Well, hello, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Marjorie.
It's lovely having you. Now, spring cleaning. I look at my closets, I look at my space at home, and I'm just like, I've accumulated so much stuff over the winter.
Yep.
Where do I begin? So, Sarah, if you're looking at spring cleaning, can be a big task. Where do you even start?
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty much every time we have someone call us, that's like, I don't even know where to get started. So we say, well, obviously our first point is to hire us, because it's going to be a lot more fun if you have someone like us come and help you. It can be really overwhelming. What happens is you sort of get into this decision fatigue after 15 minutes of starting any big project. We set really lofty goals, and then we just don't even want to tackle anything. So I would say set some very simple, minimal tasks for you to do, like set a timer for 15 minutes, just tackle the cutlery drawer, just tackle, a small box, and then really just give yourself small amounts of time to do that, so that you're not looking at the entire weekend with a task that you really feel daunting. That's too overwhelming for you to do on your own. So just start really small.
Because I look at, when I think of spring cleaning, I think, okay, maybe this is something I can tackle in an entire weekend. I can do this all in one day.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned there, you can spread it out over time. You don't have to do it all at once.
No, and we have such high hopes that we're going to have all this energy for the weekend. And so many of our clients are working all day, all week, right? So by the time the weekend comes, your whole body just needs to sort of relax and refresh. So there's no wonder why it's really hard to spend your whole weekend organizing. It's a lot of work. And especially if you don't know, like, where are things going to live? What product do I use? Which storage system do I use? So that's where having sort of some guidance, but then also just being able to tackle it in small chunks. You don't have to do it all at once. It's sort of like all or nothing. Sometimes we just give up altogether if we can't do it all. So I would say, like, start somewhere. And you're going to see a little bit of progress, just a step at a time, like exercising, right? You can't have giant muscles after not working out for 10 years. So you kind of just need to be methodical and get into a rhythm, a routine. I like to do that after dinner time. It's a great time to clean up. Just 10 minutes of a tidy before you sort of relax for the rest of the day. Start to build it into your routine, and then you'll find that you're actually motivated to keep going.
Yeah. Is there a room that you find is easier to start with, or that is hard to tackle?
Yeah, I would say, especially for our female clients, that clothing is the most overwhelming. So I would say if, like, you feel motivated to make some changes, don't start in the closet, because that's where after like 10 minutes, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I love all of this stuff. I don't want to get rid of anything. So I would sort of start somewhere like really innocent, low attachment, which is why we always say, like, the cutlery drawer or, utensils. You can go through that in 10 minutes and you don't have all of this attachment. Whereas clothing or photos or sentimental items, that's really, really hard to do if you've sort of never done it before. Now you're all of a sudden thinking you're going to have all these skills to get rid of things where it's just, you're too attached. So start somewhere where you have really low attachment. And maybe not in the basement. That's a really discouraging place to start.
We're speaking with Sarah Verweimerin, the owner and professional organizer with Three Pines Organizing here on Radio Noon. If you have a question about spring cleaning, we'd like to hear from you. The number to call is 204-780-0893. You can also text us at 204-588-7355. Maybe you also have an idea of how you tackle spring cleaning and organizing. We'd love to hear from you. Again, 204-780-0893 or 204-588-7355. So, Sarah, say you start going through your belongings.
Yeah.
How do you decide what you're going to do? What's the best way to go through the stuff that you want to keep or you don't want to keep?
Yeah, we sort of always ask these three questions. Do I like it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I use it? Do I have something exactly the same or that's taking kind of the same job? We love to collect kitchen gadgets. You go down that one aisle of HomeSense and there's just like a million avocado cutters and juicers and all these things that like look like they're going to be really helpful in the kitchen, but honestly, they can probably be done with a spoon or a knife. So it's really important to kind of assess how much you actually use the things that are in your space because they're probably causing more grief than they are helping you. So, and sometimes we find things that we're like, we actually hate this tool. So we're like, okay, well, that's an easy fix. Let's just get rid of it. So asking yourselves those questions, do I like it? Do I use it? And do I have something else that could do the same job?
Mm-hmm. How do you know that if it's something that, you know, you use or you don't use? Like you might use it sparingly.
Right.
Is it a good idea to hang on to it?
Yeah, so we always create like a storage or a seasonal section, especially in kitchens. You know, you're not using the same tools all year long. So a lot of us have really deep cabinets. So what we'll do is we'll separate that cabinet so that what's in front is the most accessible things that are being used in season. And then what lives in the back really doesn't need to be touched, you know, more than once a year, twice a year. So you don't have to get rid of anything. It's just really thinking about strategically figuring out how to use the space where you're not digging into the back of the depths of your cabinets.
Yeah, because a lot of things, I look at them and I'm like, well, I can't let it go.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like that with mugs. I struggle. Every time I go see a mug in the store, I'm like, I probably need that.
Sarah, we have a call from Dan. Hi, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's your question for Sarah?
Well, I've got a garage and I've got a workshop. I've got all kinds of stuff in it, and I sort of know where it is. But there's all kinds of stuff that my spouse keeps saying, well, you don't need this, you don't need that. Well, I might need that screw next week or next month or that box. What do I do?
So the question, Sarah, Dan has a garage full of stuff and a workshop and sort of knows what it is, but doesn't know where to start and what to do. So what does Dan do about the garage where a lot of stuff can accumulate?
First of all, make sure you have the time to actually get into the garage. So, you know, on an evening where you only have an hour is not the greatest time to start pulling out garage items. So look for a nice weekend where you can actually open up, bring everything out, get an idea of junk removal in your area, see if you can get a pickup on that day, see if you can get a donation removal. Goodwill does a lot of delivery if you have big, heavy items. So sort of set yourself up for success if you're going to do a large space like the garage, and then try to find some help. It's good to have, you know, we just did something like this and our client paid her kids $1 or $2 just to sort of help out, and that really cuts down on the time. So I would say set yourself up right to make sure you can tackle a really large area like the garage, and then look for some inspiration of what you want it to look like, what you want it to function like, and then you can kind of get an idea of the storage that you need in that area.
Mm-hmm. Dan, are you going to tackle your garage?
Yeah, I'm not short of time. I'm retired.
Yes, well, then you've got lots of time.
Yeah, but the major problem is it's all good stuff. And I'm going to use it sometime, maybe.
Right.
I may not live that long. So,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, then it's about prioritizing. You know, you sort of look at your everyday tools, the things that you want to use occasionally, can sort of be stored in a different area where you're not needing to access it. So we're always basing how we contain things based on how frequently they're getting used. And then we would contain things like, paint supplies and auto supplies, and all of those things would have different categories so that you're not looking through just the tool bin to find one hammer. You're actually you have an everyday tool bin that you can access those tools that really just need to be in one place at all times, instead of having to go through the whole garage.
Thank you so much, Dan. Again, we are taking your calls about organizing spring cleaning. 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. You can also text us at 204-588-7355. Sarah Verweimerin from Three Pines Organizing is joining us to talk about organizing. So what is the best way then to organize your stuff? Is it in boxes? Labeling it? What do you find is the most efficient way too? Because you don't want to be like, going through everything and messing everything up again.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to like setting yourself up. So if you're going to tackle an area, make sure you have like cleared off counter space. You've got some boxes that you can sort of separate things into categories as you're sorting. Otherwise, what happens is you've got piles of stuff now that are starting to creep into other piles, and then you're making more work for yourself. So sort of make sure that you've got an organized setup to begin. And then we love clear storage. That's a great way to be able to see what you have. A lot of it is stackable. So if you're working with spaces where you're just trying to maximize the height of a shelf or of a cabinet, we love IKEA's storage system. They have great, affordable storage bins that we love. And then labeling really is the key to keep the system going. So it's a visual cue for you to not put something back in a place it doesn't belong. And then it just sort of, everything always needs to be tweaked. So just because you do a system once doesn't mean that's going to be how it has to live forever. It's okay to readjust. And we do that sort of seasonally because that's our natural, when we naturally feel like I want to shift, right? So then you're going to move summer clothes in and you're going to put winter clothes away. So as you sort of shift in your house, it's okay to tweak the systems as you go.
So what do you do then, Sarah? Like, say you've already gone through your stuff and they say you have those piles like keep, donate, throw away. Like, what do you do with the stuff that say you want to donate? Where are some places that people might take them to? Or what do you do with the stuff that people don't want to hang on to anymore?
Right. So we are so connected in the city with so many great organizations that are not just putting putting things in the landfill. So Goodwill is one of our favorite, and MCC, they do large furniture pickup. So you can actually, if you have an old dresser and you don't know what to do with it, a lot of thrift stores won't take those heavy items. So MCC and Goodwill will always take stuff like that. Any junk removal service will also do their best to donate. So they're not just going to throw things into the landfill. But we really love working with Super Thrift. They're over on Portage, and they work with Teen Challenge, and they are actually making sure that these items are going to people that need them. Same with Flavie. We're there a lot, and they're working with newcomers in our city. And so we're very passionate about making sure that our clients feel that their once loved items are going somewhere to somebody that actually can use them. So we're connected with different sort of organizations that like Siloam, Main Street Project. Those are the people that are actually going to use that stuff that you're getting rid of. So connect with them first before you go to the thrift store if you want something to go to somebody.
Do you find that your clients tell you where to bring the stuff?
No. No, they're just so relieved that, donation removal is a part of our service. So it's not any extra fees. So they're just so happy to see it go. And that is something. I did a project actually in Vancouver this weekend. I was flown out to do a friend's garage, and we scheduled a donation and junk pickup on that same afternoon. And she was like, I can't believe how much lighter I feel just knowing it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's why I would suggest, like, Dan, if you're going to do a project, make sure you have junk removal on speed dial ready to go, because it does feel so good. Otherwise, those piles are going to sit there and it becomes just more work. You're making a make work project for yourself later on.
Let's talk a little bit more about Three Pines Organizing. Yeah. It's a local business here in Winnipeg, and we've been talking a lot about supporting locals, supporting Canadian businesses. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about, how did you come up with the idea to start Three Pines Organizing?
Yeah, I was, my background is psychology, so I've always just loved people. And organizing is such a practical way. 70% of our clients are crying by the time we're, getting to meet with them, because it's such a vulnerable process. So we're really here to take care of them, but then it's practically we're actually helping them clear their minds and their houses, right? So I have 3 children. I was at home with them for 7 years, and then I was like, what do I do? I love so many different things, and that's what organizing is. And the organizing world wasn't a huge thing yet. Marie Kondo was just sort of coming out with her book. The Home Edit was not quite a show yet. But I just found the connection with people, and then actually watching them experience relief, I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 is named after my 3 kids because we love working with young families, and we see when kids function in a good system, how much better the parents do, how much better they do when everyone has an expectation. And I see it in my own children. They're not perfect. One of my children just, all he does is collect cardboard. So, but again, setting them up for the success. We're not really taught organization, but it's a critical thing.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow up as an adult, like you have to find things before you run out the door, or else your whole day is like set off in a terrible way. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And your business has actually grown so much that you've expanded now into the Morden and Winkler area, right?
Yeah, we've got 2 twin sisters who are starting to launch services in Winkler Morden, and they service rural Manitoba, and then they've got us behind them so that if they have large projects, and then we all work together. So they come into the city sometimes, and there's 5 of us here in the city.
Why do you think that more people are turning to organizers? You talked about Marie Kondo, and everyone knows the Home Edit too, and the work that they do. Why do you find that more and more people are turning to organizers to do this work?
Our generation is really the first generation that's seeing such an overwhelming amount of stuff. So we're getting all of our parents' stuff, and then we're also, everything is more affordable and accessible now. For a click of the button at 11 p.m. at night, you can have a package showing up to your door.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing way, way more stuff come into our homes. And also, now most people have to both work, so they don't have the time to take care of their home and their job and their side hustle. Like there's just this unreasonable expectation that we can do it all. So I think people are starting to understand that they have to outsource, just like they would with cleaning or childcare. Your home is the same. Like you have this expectation that it's going to be beautiful after working 8 hours and then taking care of your kids or going to do something for yourself. And now you're going to organize the pantry. It's just unreasonable. And so there's a lot of guilt and shame associated with that. And that's where we like to be like, absolutely not. We all have our things and our priority. We're just here to help you. Right. And that's why you outsource, which not a lot of generations have had to do before us.
Yeah. It's okay to ask for help.
It is actually really great because it's you have expertise. You have someone who knows where to get all the stuff. And then you have someone who actually can walk you through it in a compassionate way instead of judging you. We don't do that.
We're speaking with Sarah Myran. I am so sorry.
No, you actually are doing great.
With the 3 Pines Organizing here on Radio Noon. We're taking your questions about spring cleaning, about organizing. Maybe you have a tip that you want to share.
Yes.
Give us a call, 204-780-0893, or text us at 204-588-7355. Sarah, you mentioned that you were a psychologist.
My degree is...
Your degree,
Yeah, psychology.
What is it about, what does it mentally do for people to have an organized space or to clean out after a long winter?
Well, I think we hibernate, right? We get into this hibernation mode of like, I don't have to deal with it. The nature around us really goes into this season of rest, and our bodies are kind of like, I need this too. So our productivity level is really low. And so as soon as the sun starts to come out and the seasons start to change, all of a sudden we get this boost of like, I need to be productive. And this mess that I've been living with is no longer serving me. It's not functional. And it's starting to actually creep into my day. And we always give the example, like if your kitchen is a disaster, you already are starting your day off on the wrong foot. And then you can't even come home and make a nice cup of tea in the evening because you can't find the tea or the mugs are falling down on you. And so really eliminating all of those frustrations is what brings relief. And people are sort of ready to do that by the time the spring comes, and we're ready to just get all of the things out of the house because we don't want to spend time in the house during the summer. We want to be outside. So then all of that work that's looming, to take care of for the house, we don't want to spend our beautiful summers doing that. So that's why in the spring, we're kind of like naturally just ready to go.
Sarah, I want to ask you, okay, so you've gone through everything, you've donated, you've gotten rid of all the stuff, your space is organized.
Yeah.
How do you maintain it?
Well, I think that's where we sort of work with our clients as a more in a custom way, right? We know that not every system is going to be exactly the same for every client. So we're always sort of coaching them, getting information. It's like detective work. We're trying to see how their flow is in their home. And so that's really a good way to actually, keep a system maintained is to figure out where is stuff landing. Like if your kids like to do crafts in the kitchen, but you've got all the storage in the basement, then you're going to be frustrated constantly because crafts are going to wind up in the kitchen. So create that system in the kitchen. Figure out where stuff is landing, create a home for it and a system in where life is happening instead of pushing against natural drop zones. And that's how we find people actually succeed, is where they sort of relinquish what it's supposed to look like as an organized house, and then make their systems built around their life instead of building their life around a system.
Sarah, it's been an absolute blast speaking with you. I've learned so much.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us today here on Radio Noon, and good luck with your company.
Thank you so much.
That is Sarah Myran, the owner of Three Pines Organizing, here on Radio Noon. That is Badfinger with Baby Blue. The last original member of the group, Joey Mulland, has died. It is 12:58. We're coming up to the end here of Radio Noon. Right now in Winnipeg, well, we are currently at 4 degrees at the Forks right now. 2 degrees at the airport, partly cloudy, looking at a high of 4 today, under increasing cloud this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I want to thank the amazing crew here on the show. Our tech is May McKillop, show director Sierra Sanders, YouTube live streamer is Brad Lillies. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And stay tuned here to CBC Radio 1 coming up next, the next chapter. Have a good one.